I immediately felt the burning sensation, and soon the heat from her slap. I hadn't expected it, or I could have easily blocked the blow, or at least grabbed her arm. Rubbing my left cheek, I felt a scar forming on it. "Damn, she must have snagged me with one of her fingernails," I said, looking at the drops of blood on my fingertips. That was the price I was paying for being a complete idiot and thinking with my genitals instead of my head. "I'm not a whore," yelled Kelly, and she was probably heard by everyone else within earshot. "You're right," I stand corrected. "A whore charges a fee and you just spread your legs and give yourself to her for free," I replied, turned and walked away. I didn't have any physical evidence that she was getting into bed with anyone, it was just that her actions lately screamed that she was. I guess I was finally tired of playing her stupid games, not to mention the fact that she lied to me every chance she got. "Steve, you can't just walk in here, call me a whore and leave," she yelled. Everyone around us stopped what they were doing and started watching us. But yes, I could, and I did. Like they say, if the shoe fits, and I know it does, then you're a slut, I chided her as I turned toward the front door of the club to leave. Everyone continued to stare at the two of us. You see, Kelly was my girlfriend, or ex-girlfriend, as it's now common to say. We were supposed to be exclusive, but I guess her and my understanding of exclusivity was quite different. I wasn't supposed to date or go on dates with other girls, but those restrictions didn't apply to her. Her going to lunches, dinners, and social events without me only exacerbated my need to end this farce of a relationship that should never have happened to begin with. When Kelly told me she had to work late on Friday because of a meeting with a marketer, I wasn't happy, but I understood business is business. But when I went to a local dance club with my best friend David and saw Kelly on the dance floor bickering with someone instead of being in her meeting, I reached my limit. Or, as David put it, I finally wised up and did something sensible for a change. Unlike many other stories you've read, I'm not a 6'4", 240-pound Hulk with a ripped belly button or a battle-tested Marine who can beat the crap out of anyone with his martial arts skills. No, I'm 5'10" and stocking feet and just under 170 pounds. The last time I fought was when I was a junior in high school, and even then I got my ass kicked. I wasn't a fighter then, and I'm certainly not one now. I'm a realist. The guy she was with tonight could probably blow me away, and Kelly wasn't worth getting upset over. So I just said what I needed to say to get back at her and walked away with as much dignity as I could muster. "Very smooth, Steve, you're just lucky that monkey didn't blow you apart," David said as he caught up with me in front of the front door. "Why would that be?" "All that would happen is that he'd probably hurt his hands beating the shit out of me, and for what? He already has my girlfriend, so what's the point?" "Well, you got your 2 minutes of fame by telling Kelly off and hopefully embarrassing her, at least a little." "Don't count on it. Kelly dances to Kelly's drummer. I'm just tired of all her shit, too much drama for me. Relationships shouldn't be this complicated, but with her they are." I immediately remembered the things I'd given up on before and felt guilty for the 1000th time. Why we were even together and why she stayed around for so long is still a mystery. More than one person had made it clear that Kelly was no match for me and I should thank my lucky stars that she was dating me at all. Being a virtual knockout and having a great body to top it off, she liked to take advantage of people, but I didn't notice until it was too late. She would hook me, lure me into the water and leave me floundering in the bottom of the boat, watching me gasp for air. Eventually she would pick me up, drop me back into the water to hook me again. Even idiots get smart after a while. The only reason I could assume she stayed was because to her I was a challenge, a kind of anomaly, because I wasn't completely in love with her. When we met, I already had a girlfriend. But I ended up having what most guys wanted, which was everyone but me. After the scene with Kelly, I didn't go out and get drunk, burn all the clothes she'd left in my apartment, or even plot some elaborate revenge. I did nothing at all. I did, however, lament the fact that I had broken up with my old girlfriend to start dating Kelly. Or, to paraphrase, when Angie dumped me after finding out about Kelly. Angie and I had been dating for about 7 or 8 months. We'd known each other much longer, but had recently moved from dating to dating and finally to girlfriend and boyfriend status. She had short black curly hair, was 5 feet 4 inches, and was a little overweight. But Angie had the most beautiful dark eyes that said to me what only a lover can say. What drew us together at first was that we both liked doing the same thing. Steve, since we're doing the same things anyway, wouldn't it be better to do them together? That made a lot of sense. We started slowly, but after a month or so I picked up the pace. We both worked at Contact Corporation, a software services company, she in technical services and I in materials management. Angie had worked there for just under 5 years and was absolutely competent in her field. She wasn't your average computer geek or gamer. She could communicate and connect with people at all levels, and that's what made her so popular and what first made me take notice of her. Even though we both worked for the same company, she worked on one side of town and I worked on the other. I only saw her at meetings and company events. When I had a software problem, she was sent to fix my problem. 2 days later we were already exchanging emails, and another week later we ran into each other at the movies. After that, we just gravitated towards each other and started going to events and other places outside of work together. Eventually everyone at work decided we were a couple, and finally, we were on our own. Angie was easy. We went from casual dating to spending most weekends or part of a weekend together, doing things we both enjoyed and sometimes doing nothing at all. What do you want to do tonight? I don't know, what do you want to do? Was my usual response. Sometimes we agreed and sometimes, let's just say we spent the evening under the covers. No pressure, no expectations, just mutual love and satisfaction. We went from the initial lust stage to the comfortable stage where our lives went on, they just went on together. And then I blew it. My real passion outside of work was playing in the kitchen. I considered myself somewhat of an amateur chef. It helped that some of my best friends were professional chefs at one restaurant or another in the city. Once a year, several chefs hosted an 8-course dinner, with all profits going directly to the Children's Wish Foundation. It was an exclusive event, and tickets were much more expensive than I could afford. This year, however, I was lucky. The owner of the restaurant where David worked had an unexpected problem and gave David 2 tickets. Being my best friend and knowing how much I wanted to go, he let me be the first to get the tickets. "Steve, I'm going to make your day," he said by phone a week before the event. "How do you feel about going to the chef's gala this year, and best of all, for free?" I thought he was playing a joke on me, but when he said he had 2 tickets, I literally walked on air. "Steve, remember it's official, and," he continued, "you'll be on your own when the silent auction begins." I didn't care about that part, just attending the dinner would make my year a success. Angie was thrilled. Now I'll have another place to wear that formal dress I bought last year. It was important to her who would wear what and how it would look. We'll need to take pictures there, so I'll be sure to get my hair done that same day. Thus began her plans for the evening. Me? I just wanted to see a copy of the evening's menu, but it was a closely guarded secret. Saturday morning I got a call from Angie. In a horrified voice she gave me her grim news. "Steve, I hate to do this, but I won't be able to go today. I think I have the flu or something. I've been sick all night. I'm really sorry." This statement was followed by a hearty cough. "Angie, go to sleep and don't worry about it. Just get better, okay?" My thoughts began to scatter. I had to figure out what to do next. "But what are you going to do with the other ticket?" "Don't worry, I'll find someone to come with me." That was easier said than done. All of my friends were either busy or didn't have a tuxedo or formal dress on hand to wear on such short notice. By 4 o'clock, I had run out of friends and options. I decided to go alone and make the best of it. Maybe with 2 tickets I could bring home a doggy bag? I laughed at the thought. I was standing at the entrance to the restaurant waiting to be let in when I noticed 2 women talking to the maitre d' who was checking people in. "Sorry, miss, but tickets for this event have been sold out for at least 2 months now," he informed them both. "Well, Connie, why don't you go and have fun, but make sure you eat enough for both of us," she laughed. "I'll see you this weekend." Her friend waved goodbye and walked into the banquet hall. If I hadn't been such a nice guy, I probably would have felt a lot better, but damn it, I had an extra ticket that would have otherwise gone to waste. "Excuse me," I said, walking up to the pretty brunette. "Are you looking for a ticket to get in?" She sized me up before answering. I was until they told me it was sold OUT. At 5'9" in heels, she looked me straight in the eye. I just have an extra ticket, and if you don't mind sitting next to me at dinner, it's all yours. Yeah, sure, what's the catch? I suppose you'll want to sleep with me for the price of a ticket, she replied indignantly. Sorry to disappoint you, but no. However, if you don't use it, the seat next to me will remain empty, and I'd hate to see that happen. But since you don't need a ticket. That was all I had time to say before she wrapped her arm around mine, told me that her name was Kelly and that I was now her official date for the evening. All 6 tables were filled. The master of ceremonies welcomed us and said that we were in for a real treat, adding that the menu covered all taste buds and we were sure to enjoy the evening. A silent auction will be held after dinner to raise additional funds for the Children's Wish Foundation. All items have been kindly donated, so the full amount will go to the children. Please bid with that in mind. The evening began. We talked while cooking. I tried to make not just small talk, but explained each dish to her in detail. I learned that she had just broken up with her boyfriend, whom she called a scumbag-sucking cheater. When I smiled and asked how she really felt about him, she laughed. I was having a great time. In between the 4th and 5th courses, which were the main courses, music started playing. Steve, do you dance? As a matter of fact, yes, I replied, rising to my feet and taking her hand. Okay, my last boyfriend said dancing was for pussies. We were the first couple on the parquet, but after the song started, 3 other couples joined us. The music was quiet, the dancing was slow, and she felt wonderful in my arms. A few minutes later we were back at the table eating. Each course came with a different wine, and I tried to drink a little at a time, realizing that I needed to get home in one piece. Kelly, on the other hand, finished every glass, no matter what was in it. You should go easy on the wine, I told her. Don't worry, Connie came by car tonight, so I can relax and enjoy myself. Good thing, because she was already starting to get tipsy. The dessert was some sort of chocolate souffle cake or a combination of the two. It was decadent, rich, sweet, and just melted in your mouth. Oh my God, this is delicious, Kelly said as she sighed and inhaled her piece, then looked at mine. I've never eaten anything like this in my life, she declared, finally setting her fork aside. It's going to take me a week at the gym to get rid of the pounds I gained today. What extra pounds? You look great, I said, complimenting her for the first time. Well, aren't you a cutie? She purred, reached up and pecked me on the lips, which took me by surprise. After dinner, we were offered a choice of 8 coffees, different types of tea, or a glass of ice wine. I ordered a cappuccino and Kelly chose the ice wine. The wine was served at a temperature just above freezing. When I explained to her that the grapes were picked from the vines after they had been frozen, she looked at me as if I had given her a retort. No, really. And instead of getting 4 drops of juice from each grape, they only get 1, making it very concentrated, which is why it's so sweet. And delicious, she added. I could drink this all night. With those words, she emptied her glass in one gulp. Not at those prices. A small bottle costs $50 to $60. That distracted her a little. Well, I'd better have another glass then, because with my paycheck this is probably the last time I'll ever drink something like this. We danced through 3 more songs before the auction began. I was hoping for a couple more dances because I enjoyed her company and didn't want the evening to end. A few of my friends asked me who my date was and if Angie knew about her. I simply told them that I had only met her tonight, and no, it wasn't a date. Too bad, more than one guy said admiringly. All of the items in the auction were sold for well over their actual value. I bid on 2, but the final price was almost double what I bid. But it was still a lot of fun. After the auction, David finally came over to our table, still dressed in his chef's uniform. Kelly, this is David, Kelly. They shook hands. David sat down in the vacant chair next to Kelly. Well, what do you think? He asked us both. The food was just okay, I informed a shocked David. Most of the dishes were overcooked and cold by the time they were served. Fortunately, the wine drowned out the unpleasant flavor they left in my mouth. They both looked at me like I was from another planet. At that moment, I winked at them and grinned. That was the most delicious food I've ever eaten. With those words, David punched me and called me an asshole. Well, I should get back to the kitchen and get cleaned up. It was nice meeting Kelly. I hope to see you again. Do you know all the cooks? Asked Kelly as David walked away. I know 3 of the 6 cooking today. But it's the kind of job I'd never want to have. The hours are long and the pay sucks until you get to the top level. Well, it looks like fun anyway, and I think I can make a few dishes from the ones we had tonight, she said, bragging. I guess the wine had gone to her head. Well, if you ever do, I'll bring wine and we'll make a night of it, I said, touching my coffee cup to her crystal wine glass. The evening finally came to a close. Connie found us, introductions were made, and we all said again what a great time we had had. Steve, give me your cell phone number, and when I finally get up the courage to try making a dish like this, I'll call you. We exchanged cell phone numbers and I reminded everyone to drive carefully and get home safe and sound. It was a great night. When Angie recovered from her ailment, she asked what I had done with the extra ticket. I didn't lie and told her what I had been doing all evening. I don't think she was thrilled about it, especially the dancing part, but I sure as hell wasn't about to let a $500 ticket go to waste. However, I purposely forgot to tell her about the kiss and the phone number exchange. I figured what she didn't know wouldn't hurt her, and I was sure I'd never hear from Kelly again. I was so wrong. 5 weeks later, I received a call on my cell phone, and without recognizing the number, I hesitantly answered. It's Steve. Gosh, how quickly they forget the beautiful evening. Kelly, I said, recognizing her voice. How's my aspiring chef doing? Well, that's why I'm calling, she said animatedly. I want to take you out to dinner Saturday night. I've finally worked up the courage to make some gourmet recipes, and I need a guinea pig to try them out. It won't be as elaborate as our last dinner together, but I can guarantee it will be memorable, and remember, you promised to bring wine. I quickly looked at the calendar on my cell phone. Saturday is good for me. Great, then it's a date. She gave me directions to her apartment and then told me she was looking forward to our evening. After saying goodbye to Kelly, I began to have my doubts, and justifiably so. Although Angie and I hadn't yet reached the stage where we always spent the whole weekend together, we tried to be with each other on the weekends as often as possible. We may not have said out loud that we were in an exclusive relationship, but it was implied, and I was in a quandary. What will I tell Angie on Saturday if she wants to go out? Maybe I'll ask her out on Friday, that way I'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But it didn't work out the way I planned. Steve, I can't go Friday night. My friend Judy and I are looking after her niece, but I'd love to go on Saturday. There's a movie there that I really want to see, and it would be a treat for me. I'm sorry, but David asked me to help someone with their recipes on Saturday night. I know I shouldn't have lied, but how could I tell her the truth? I chose the coward's way and felt like a real bore. How about I pick you up Sunday afternoon and we go to a movie? That's fine with me. How about picking me up at 1 o'clock this afternoon? Then we'll have enough time to make it in time for 2:15. I dodged that bullet. 3 bottles of wine had cost me almost $100, with the ice wine alone costing over $55. I'd bought 3 different kinds of wine for tonight, and while they weren't of the same caliber as our last night together, I didn't think Kelly would mind. You see, we had 2 things in common: we both loved food and wine. However, I loved good food and good wine, and you'll notice that I omitted those 2 adjectives when talking about Kelly. Maybe after making this dish, she will understand what it takes to make such a special dinner. Help, was the message I received early Saturday night. I think I'm in over my head, can you get here sooner? I immediately responded, how early? What are you doing right now? I'll take a quick shower and come right over, I replied. Do you need me to bring anything? I don't know. Just get here as soon as you can, she replied panically. I took a quick shower and headed out the door. 15 minutes later, I was knocking on her door with 3 bottles of wine and half a bottle of cognac in my hands. Thank God you're here, Kelly said, breathing a sigh of relief. She gave me a quick kiss and pulled me into the house. I think I need 3 ovens for what I have in mind. All the dishes need to be different temperatures, and it's going to take forever if I can't put them all in at the same time. She was tense. Relax, take a deep breath, and open one of the bottles of wine. It wasn't as bad as she thought it would be. Remember, we had 8 courses that night. Each one was cooked separately. How many did you plan for? 4, including day. Cert. No problem then, I said, laying out the food and putting the first dish in the oven. The first dish will be ready in about 45 minutes and the second dish will be ready in half an hour, I explained to her, setting the timer on the clock. In 20 minutes I'll put the second one in and we'll be on top of it. You know, I had never heard of some of the ingredients and I had to look them up on the computer to find out what they were. 2 of them I couldn't even find at the local grocery store. I just hope it all tastes good. Don't worry, Kelly, cooking is supposed to be fun. That wasn't fun, she said, taking a big sip of wine. Well, if you've got it under control, I'm going to go upstairs and take a much-needed shower. Make yourself at home. The food was cooking and the next course was almost ready, so I furtively glanced at the main course. The salmon fillet was a good choice, but there wasn't much on it. I rummaged through the cupboard and fridge looking for spices and luckily found exactly what I needed, including some fresh lemon. I was just finishing up when Kelly came back downstairs and saw what I was doing. I didn't know what to put on them. I was going to sprinkle them with breadcrumbs and pepper and leave it at that. I think you did more than you needed to, I smiled as I tucked the items back into place. Well, that's done, I'll help you set the table and by the time we're done, the second course will be ready to serve. After that, things went from bad to worse. The crab-stuffed mushrooms were great, and the shrimp and artichoke tarts were good, although a little dry. 2 glasses of wine later, I pulled out the salmon, which was cooked perfectly, along with twice-baked potatoes and grilled asparagus. To my dismay, Kelly put her fillet back in for a couple more minutes or until it was done, as she put it. Dessert was a homemade key lime pie. Kelly said that to make it, she went to the fresh produce market to buy real limes. I always thought a key lime was a lime, she said as she pulled it out of the refrigerator. Key limes are much smaller and pale green in color. She made coffee and I cut off a slice each. I put the iced wine in the freezer about 2 hours ago, and it will be the perfect ending to our meal. I think I did pretty well for a first-timer. We're still alive, so at least I didn't poison us. She smiled, jutting out her chest. I want to thank you for coming in early. I don't think I could have finished without you. It's been my pleasure. Consider me your shining white chef. I knew it was corny, but at that minute I didn't know what else to say. How about a small glass of ice wine or warm brandy? Warming brandy? I guess she'd never tried it either. She declined the wine, and I pulled out the incomplete bottle of cognac I'd brought with me. Kelly drank too much cognac. It was warm, went down smoothly, and was so damn strong. By the second glass, she was all over me. Sitting next to me on the couch, Kelly leaned over and whispered in my ear, "Steve, I think it's time to thank you properly." And for the next 5 minutes there was a hell of a lot of tongue and lip action. When she took the last sip and started to unbutton her blouse, I didn't want to do it and stopped the motion. Kelly, I think things have gone far enough. I started thinking about Angie. You're already half in the sack and I'm not going to take advantage of you, I told her as I watched her continue to unbutton her blouse. Steve, I'm so damn horny right now I'm dripping. Don't worry, I'll respect you in the morning, she said, slurring her words. Shit, why me? I lamented to myself, looking up at the sky, because now she had her top button completely undone, and there was nothing underneath. Beautiful, was all I could think as I looked at her naked breasts, which were begging to be touched. I resisted her as hard as I could, even when she started jumping all over the couch, teasing me. Then it happened, she burped. Covering her mouth, she ran to the kitchen sink. Luckily, she threw up in the sink with the garbage disposal. With a jet of hot water and a little squeeze, the garbage disposal quickly dealt with the vomit. With a wet kitchen towel, I wiped her face and staggered to the bathroom to rinse her mouth out. I don't know what happened. 1 minute I was fine and the next minute I was fine. Thanks for helping me, she smiled, still not fully sobered up. Maybe next time we'll get together, because right now I don't think I'd be fun to be with. Kelly, I shouldn't have let you have that second shot of cognac, it's too damn strong. I smiled, she didn't. Go get some sleep, I said, kissing her forehead. She wasn't satisfied with just that, she pulled me to her lips. I was relieved when her minty lips met mine without my tongue. Next time you'll be all mine, was how she ended our evening. Damn, I wish I could see the remains of that body, I thought to myself as I walked to my car, still semi-erect. Finally, in the quiet of the night, back at my house, I went over the entire evening in my head. Would I really go to bed with her? What about Angie? Thank God I fell asleep before I could answer those questions. Sunday's movie was a woman's movie, but there was enough sex in it to make it interesting. When Angie asked what I did last night, I said I helped a friend try out a new recipe. This time it was only a partial lie. Did I tell her that the friend was the same girl I slept with at the gala? No way, and I was thankful she didn't ask. After all, we had a relationship and she trusted me. Things were back to normal, or should I say, back to Angie and me. When Kelly called and asked me to try some of her new recipes, I didn't see it as a big deal. After all, I was the one who had sparked her interest in cooking. This time, however, I only brought one bottle of wine and nothing stronger. It was perfect. The food tasted great and was cooked perfectly even without my help. I made a few minor suggestions which she did not fail to take note of. After dinner, she told me what was on her mind. I'm planning a dinner for my boss and his wife on the occasion of his 60th birthday, which is in 2 weeks. It was his wife's idea and it will be a great surprise, especially since it will be held in his own home. How would you feel about doing me a big favor? She asked, scooting even closer to me on the couch. If someone like you could help me in the kitchen, I wouldn't look like an idiot if something goes wrong. I'll do anything to get you to help me. Damn, she knows how to persuade. Okay, but only on one condition. Anything you want, Steve? She immediately responded to my request. Let me do the menu. And with those 5 simple words, without realizing it, I sealed my fate. That's it? That's your only condition? Hell, I was willing to give up a lot more than that, and I still am, she said, pressing her lips to mine. Easy, girl, I can't think with you. She put her arm around me. That's the thing, Steve. First the menu, I told her. Now get me a notepad, because we're going to create a dish they'll never forget. It took almost 2 hours to put everything together. I might have made it an hour if Kelly hadn't been nagging me every 10 minutes. Finally, after the 4th time I asked her to stop, she reluctantly sat down next to me, frowning. Steve, are you gay or something? My look told her no. Do you find me attractive, sexy, or at least moderately good looking? Kelly, you're a knockout, but I don't understand why you're interested in me. You're the first guy I've ever dated who didn't hit on me. Hell, I've thrown myself at you twice and nothing. That's why I asked if you were gay. She started undoing the buttons on her top. Now let's try again. She began to bridge the gap between us again. Since we'll be working very close to each other for the next 2 weeks, shouldn't we get to know each other better? With her lips on mine for the next 2 hours, I forgot about everything but what was in my hands. Well, you were right, you're definitely not gay, oral as hell but not gay, she said approvingly, kissing me for the 100th time. She was fantastic in bed, the best I'd ever had, not that I'd had that many women in my life. When she lay next to me I should have been over the moon, but all I could think about was that I had cheated on Angie. I could try to convince myself that we weren't exclusive or engaged, but in the end the only person I'd be fooling would be myself. I pulled her off me and swung her legs over the edge of her bed. The bathroom is the door on the right, a sleepy voice told me, but I wasn't thinking about the bathroom, even though I probably needed a shower. Are you okay? She asked, pulling herself up in bed. See, I'm kind of seeing someone else, and I shouldn't have done what we did last night. Now that I said it out loud, I felt even worse. Well, I'm not going to tell her, and if you don't, it stays between the two of us. It's not like you're married or anything. That didn't make me feel any better. So why don't you mind your own business, use the mouthwash at the sink, and go back to bed? I've never been with someone as oral as you, and I want to take full advantage if this is going to be my one and only time with you. She smiled, and like a fool I did as I was told. My cock was sore by Sunday morning, and my tongue? Well, let's just say it had been everywhere and done things it had never done before last night. Kelly was every guy's wet dream, and I had enjoyed it all for over 12 hours. One more night like last night, and I'll chain you to my headboard, she said, smiling. She made us breakfast while I ground coffee. She was wearing almost nothing, and I was only wearing boxers. Still, the only thing I was thinking about was how to leave her apartment gracefully. You're on the pill, aren't you? Fina. LLY asked the question that had been bugging me since we started last night. And if it isn't? It's a hell of a time to ask, isn't it? Well, last night you didn't give me a chance to ask. I either had a pussy on my face or my tongue in my mouth. She giggled. I guess I went a little crazy last night, but don't worry, I've been on the pill since I was 16. My mom said she didn't want rats running around. I breathed a sigh of relief. I was hungrier than I thought I would be. 4 eggs, 2 pieces of toast, and 2 cups of coffee went down a treat. When she unbuttoned her shirt and smeared jam on both nipples, I knew I was in trouble, but when she slipped the goblet between her legs, I knew I was screwed. I did it on the kitchen table. It was 2:30 when I finally left her apartment. There were 4 voicemails and 2 texts from Angie. Where have you been? Was the first question that came off her lips. Would you believe I drank too much and lost track of time last night? Replied I. Steve, this isn't like you. We were supposed to go shopping today. She was getting angry. Honey, I'll fix it. Give me half an hour to change and we can get into the mall before it closes. Steve, it's getting late and I didn't want to rush. How about this, we go shopping for a couple hours and then I'll take you out to dinner. I was in a tough spot. Well, only if you really want me to, she replied tokenistically. I'll be there before you know it. I needed a good shower to make sure I got rid of Kelly's scent. I even put on some cologne to be on the safe side. The mall wasn't crowded, and we had time to do almost everything, leisurely strolling hand in hand through the rows of stores. When we were finally done, we were at her favorite Chinese buffet. Are you okay? You seem a little detached, Angie asked, looking at me. I quickly came up with a lie. I guess I'm still hungover from last night. I became good at lying. In my own eyes, I had become a real louse. Too sick to come back to me, she said, biting off an egg roll and sticking her tongue inside. I felt my tongue get hard. Damn it, Steve, you outdid yourself today, said an exhausted Angie a few hours later, sipping a glass of water. I think I'll be mad at you more often if that's what I get when we make up. I gave her everything I had and more because I felt guilty. We kissed and hugged for the next hour. I was just about to fall asleep when I felt warm lips kiss me and move south of my chest. She wasn't as experienced as Kelly, but more than good enough to get me hard again. And then it happened. She threw her leg over me and guided me onto her back. Angie wasn't on the pill. Angie? Hush, hush. It's my safe time of the month, and I wanted to make you natural from our first time together, she said, rising and falling on top of me. God, this feels so fantastic, she moaned with her eyes completely closed. Reaching up, I took both of her small, pointed breasts and began to work them and her nipples until they bulged. I placed the thumb of my left hand on the base of her hillock and worked her clit each time she plunged into me. I held her hips, pushing every inch into her, giving her everything I had. It didn't take long. There were no loud cries, though her mouth was wide open, and for the first time ever, we come together. 2 minutes later she was already lying on my chest. I love you, Angie, I whispered in her ear. She could and snuggled even tighter against me, hiding her head under my arm. It was well past 11 when we hit the road. Stay the night? Angie asked me quietly. I can't, I have to work tomorrow. We can call in and take a sick day. Can't do Mondays. I kissed her, rolled off the bed, and got dressed. I'll call you later. I kissed her one more time before I left. As I drove back to my apartment, I felt even worse, if that was even possible. I had been with 2 different women in the past 2 nights and had confessed my love to one of them. I promised God that I would never cheat on Angie again if he would let me off the hook for what I did Saturday night. I don't think he listened to me. Kelly and I planned everything, bought groceries, and tried to dot the I's and T's. There shouldn't be any slip-ups if I could help it. I wrote everything down so I wouldn't forget anything, checking and rechecking until 2 in the morning before dinner. "What and with whom are you doing?" they asked me the next evening. "It's just dinner, and I'm only there to make sure nothing goes wrong." Angie didn't believe it. "Now I know who you were with all those times you said you were helping someone with their prescriptions." "Steve, is there anything you want or, in this case, don't want to tell me?" "Angie, don't you trust me?" "This is the last time I'll probably see her," I said pleadingly. "And I promise I'll tell you everything on Sunday morning." "Why not Saturday night when you're done?" "Honey, we won't start dinner until after 8. Relax, I'll see you Sunday morning, and I might have some leftovers for you to try." I thought she bought it, but I was wrong, I just didn't know it at the time. If it wasn't for our friends who had attended the chef's gala and told Angie what Kelly looked like, and the fact that I had danced more than one dance with her, we wouldn't have had this conversation. Not to mention the fact that she now knew for a fact that I had been with her on 2 other occasions. That didn't bode well for me. "Okay, I guess I'll just have to trust you to be alone with her, but I don't like it." I kissed her to allay her fears and decided I was free to go. I had no idea what Angie was up to. Sunday afternoon I got a text from Kelly. "Steve, I need you to pick me up tomorrow. I have 3 boxes of stuff and they won't fit in my little car." "No problem, I'll be there shortly after 6 o'clock, I replied. Dressed in a white shirt and black pants, I pulled up to Kelly's house. We loaded into the car and drove to her boss's house, both of us alert, not wanting to blow the case. It went better than I could have imagined. We started with a nice bottle of wine and 2 different appetizers, followed by 2 main courses with all the condiments, and ended with 2 different types of desserts and after-dinner drinks. Everything went as well as it could have, even with David and his team of chefs present to prepare the food. Her boss and his wife had nothing but praise for what we had made and both said they had never eaten anything tastier. The wife smiled as she handed Kelly the envelope. "There's something else in there for you too," she said, still smiling as she watched us pack. "You two should do this for a living, you seem to have a talent for it." We thanked her and 10 minutes later we were already packing into my car. "Are we good or what?" yelled Kelly as we pulled up in front of her house. I can't believe it, nothing went wrong and everything went exactly as we planned. She was wild, to say the least. "How much did we make today?" I inquired, wondering if we had really made any money after all our expenses. "Steve, how much did the food and wine cost us?" "Well, you have all these figures at your house. Why don't we unpack them? We'll see when we're done." We had more food left than I realized. Her boss's wife told us to take everything that was left except the wine. With a wink, she told Kelly she was planning something special for her husband later that night to work off the calories from the food. Walking us out, she told Kelly, "Don't plan on seeing him before 10 o'clock Monday morning." After putting everything away in Kelly's fridge, we sat down with a glass of wine and started calculating our expenses. As far as I can tell, we spent $225 on food, just under $78 on wine, and another $30 to $40 on miscellaneous little things for the table. That's a total of $340+. How much did she pay us? Kelly opened the envelope and pulled out $800 bills. "Damn it, Steve, we're rich," she replied, bouncing in place. "Kelly, I don't think a profit of $450 puts us in the rich category." "But for one night's work? We probably spent 10 hours shopping and cooking and everything else. That works out to be somewhere around $45 an hour, and if you divide by 2, we each made about $23 an hour." "Steve, I don't make $23 an hour at my regular job. That's free money to me because we don't even have to pay taxes." And you heard what she said, we have to do this full time. She was excited and wound up. It would be fun from time to time, but I definitely wouldn't want to do it for a living, maybe part-time, but not full-time. I don't think Kelly heard a word I said. She was pacing back and forth with a glass of wine in her hand, not stopping to fill my glass. "Damn, I'm worked up, and I know how to use all that excess energy," she announced, taking off her blouse and bra and tossing them on the couch next to me. "Kelly, I told you I'm not fucking anymore, I have a girlfriend." "One more time? I'll even let you tie me up if you want." "I just can't, and besides, even if I wanted to, I don't have any condoms with me." "Steve, I'm on the damn pill." "I'd forgotten about that, it was Angie who wasn't on the pill." "I just can't." "How about I give you a blowjob and you work your talented tongue before you go?" "Come on, if you don't I'll never be able to sleep tonight, I'm so horny." Against my better judgment, I refused to give her a blowjob and gave her a little oral discharge right on the couch. "Are you sure I can't give you something in return?" asked Kelly, enjoying what I was doing as I lay there with my eyes closed. "You're doing it so well, and it sure won't take long tonight," she said while rubbing her pussy against my face, and she was right. "Oh God," she screamed, grabbing the seat cushion as she pushed hard into my face. "Holy shit," she said, letting out a final groan. "I needed that." "Are you sure I can't do something for you?" "No, it's fine, besides, I need to get out of here because I have a date tomorrow morning." "If you change your mind, you have my number and you know where to find me." I was going to get some extra food, but decided it would be better if I just left. Kelly walked me to the door and gave it one more try before opening it. Finally, realizing that the night was over and I was leaving, she opened the door, kissed me hard, and watched me walk to my car. And then it all went downhill from there. "Well, Steve, it looks like she thanked you in a way that only I should have," shouted an angry Angie. "Honey, what are you doing here?" "Just checking to see what my boyfriend is up to." Walking up close to me, she said, "Care to explain that kiss I just witnessed?" I was about to try to say something to subdue her when suddenly she sniffed at me. I saw her jaw drop and her eyes get huge with realization. "You miserable piece of shit," she yelled at me. She turned and pointed at her friend Judy, who was standing by the car. "That bastard cheated on me," she shouted at Judy. "Angie," I said, trying to get her to stop. She kept walking away, but before she got into Judy's car, she tossed me a bird. My life had just crashed and burned. "Angie!" I yelled one more time before her car sped off. Shit, what am I going to do now? The consequences were just beginning. The next 2 weeks were hard. I begged and pleaded with Angie to talk to me, but she kept hanging up on me and wouldn't answer any of my emails. I was going to tell her that I didn't fuck Kelly on Saturday, but what could I say? I just went down on her because she needed a release. That would just be unthinkable, like a goddamn lead balloon. Then I tried a different approach. "Judy, you just have to get her to talk to me," I begged my friend. "I made a huge mistake, but I really do love her." "Steve, what you did can't be done by a man who's in love with someone else." She wanted terribly to believe you, but after what she saw and smelled, you roasted your own goose. It was too great a betrayal for her. She will never, I repeat, never forgive you, of that I am sure. And Judy was right. Kelly said she was sorry, but I knew she wasn't. She just figured she had won and left it at that. Now I was the envy of most guys, and everyone was saying how lucky I was to have a girl like Kelly. She was nice and all, and we had great sex, but it wasn't the same as with Angie. Kelly was shallow and would only do things to me because that's what a friend does, not because she enjoyed it. After a while she stopped doing the things I liked. They were replaced by things she liked, and I didn't say anything. I figured I deserved what I got and now I was just going with the flow, paying my punishment. The first cracks started less than 5 months into our relationship. I no longer spent weekends with Kelly, now I had to share them with her friends. When I told her I didn't like it when she slow danced with other guys, she brushed me off, saying she always ended the night in my arms. And when I started to rebel and didn't want to go clubbing every weekend, she went without me. The third time I caught her in a lie, we got into an altercation. She told me she was going out with her girlfriends. Later I found out she was going out to dinner with some guy. Jesus, Kelly, did you really think I'd never find out? It's not like you went to an out-of-town restaurant. My friend Kenny is one of the chefs at Antonio's. He called me when your asshole friend sent his dish back because it wasn't cooked to his liking. Steve, he's a new manager from work and I was just showing him around town. It was a business dinner, that's all. I knew you wouldn't understand, so I didn't tell you. Is it okay to lie to me? Did you end up with him at the end of the night? Steve, I don't think I gave you a reason to ask such a question. But to answer your question, no, he didn't. He dropped me off at my apartment and left. Satisfied? I wasn't satisfied because I didn't believe her for a second. For the next 8 or 9 weeks, everything was perfectly fine. She tried her best to make it up to me. I was just beginning to trust her again when she announced that the marketing group she was part of was holding a late-night meeting and would even bring dinner. Like a fool, I believed her. David, I'm single tonight, I said to my friend. How about the two of us go out and have some fun? Are you sure Kelly's okay with this? I know she has you on a short leash. It's not funny, David. She has a meeting tonight, you have the day off, and tomorrow we have to go to a party at one of her friend's house, so it's tonight or never. We walked out. We visited 3 clubs, the first 2 were our usual hangouts, and the third was a club that had just recently opened in the last couple months. Like any new club, it was crowded, and we literally had to wait almost half an hour for enough people to leave before we were allowed inside. It was dark and noisy inside, with people standing along the walls. We made our way to the bar and 10 minutes later we were each holding a couple bottles of Corona. Let's see what else is here, David said as we walked along the wall behind where most of the people on the dance floor were. It was David who first saw Kelly on the dance floor. Steve, what time does Kelly have to finish her appointment tonight? I have no idea, but it'll probably be late because they're bringing dinner for them. Looks like the meeting ended early. He pointed his beer to the dance floor. I couldn't see her from where I was, so I moved next to him. Even in that dim light, I could see it was Kelly. She was pushing and rubbing with a tall guy who had 3 left feet, but damn, she was still doing most of the moving. Kelly was smiling, pressing her ass against his leg. I waited until the song ended and the two of them went back to their table. Steve, please don't do anything stupid, was David's only advice, but I decided to ignore him and not listen. As I made my way through the crowd to their table, all I could see was red. Kelly was so engrossed in her new friend that she didn't even notice me approaching. Looks like your meeting ended early, huh? Was the first thing that came out of my mouth. Her new buddy looked back at me. Steve. We cut the meeting short early and decided to grab a bite to eat, and since I'd never been to this club, we came here. This is Doug, the new manager from work I was telling you about. Her eyes were as big as saucers and her voice went up an octave because she was talking so fast, trying to explain what I was seeing. Doug, for the record, when you fuck her, take her from behind, she really likes it that way, no matter what she says, I said loud enough for everyone at the table to hear. And I'd wear a condom if I were you, because otherwise you're likely to pick up something, she's a real tramp, if you know what I mean. I smiled, took a sip of my beer and turned to leave. I'd had enough, or should I say enough? I'm not a slut, Kelly yelled at me. Then I made the mistake of turning to face her. She slapped me hard just as I turned around, cutting my cheek with one of her stupid long fingernails. I wanted to hit her, but I held back. There was silence in the club, the customers not only watching us, but waiting to see what Kelly or I would say or do next. I got better, the whore charges, and you just spread your legs and give it to her for free. I wanted to poke Doug again, like if you slipped her a tenner she'd swallow it, but even more I wanted to get out of there in one piece. Kelly and I exchanged a few more verbal barbs, including me calling her a slut, before I finally turned around and walked out the front door past the bouncer, who was watching us intently. David caught up with me outside the club. He said something about how lucky I was to get out alive considering the size of the guy she was with, but I wasn't listening. We got in my car and just drove off. Can I ask where we're going? Finally inquired David, as we were heading in the opposite direction from where we lived. Hearing his voice, I snapped out of my stupor as he continued, land to Steve. I'm sorry, David, I guess I'm not all here, I told him, turning the car around. I knew it would end up this way in the end. it's just that in less than 7 months I've messed up my life big time and I have no one to blame but myself. What the hell was I thinking when I got involved with a girl like Kelly? Dick thoughts come to mind. Asshole. Well, you asked. What are you going to do now? I suppose I could wallow in self-pity for a couple weeks or drink myself into a stupor, but as you know, it won't take long. I think I'll just pack what little she has into my house and get over it. Do you happen to need a size 4 scarlet piece of lingerie? I bought it for her a couple weeks ago, but I never gave it to her. It wouldn't suit me, though my girl might like it. You did say scarlet and slutty, didn't you? He smiled. She didn't have much stuff, and within 10 minutes it was packed up and standing at the front door. Did I expect her to rush home and beg me to take her back? I didn't think so. Doug was probably knee-deep in it at this point, and frankly, I didn't care anymore. I guess deep down you know when it's over, and in my case I had known that for quite some time. It gave me a much-needed final push to end it for good. But no matter how bad things get, the end is always a little sad. Over the next few days I called myself a dumb shit more than once, but all I heard was my own voice in my head. Over the next few days I received several calls and emails from Kelly. She tried to explain what I was seeing, but the only thing I want Ed to know was when she was coming to pick up her shit. Steve, I'm sorry, but it wasn't what you think, she said, still trying to convince me one last time. Kelly, I don't care anymore. You can do whatever you want now, but it just won't be with me anymore. Are you sure? We can try again. You've got to be kidding me. Why would I go through this again? You're just not worth it. She tried to kiss me goodbye, but I turned away and all she got was a scratched cheek. I was relieved that she was gone, but there was still a huge hole in my gut, and it wasn't because of Kelly leaving. How is she doing, Judy? I asked Angie's best friend a couple months later. I didn't even know she left the maintenance department to take a position in the field. She picked it up a couple months ago, in case you were wondering. She was sick of hearing about you and your new chosen one, but I hear you're to be congratulated. You finally got your head out of your ass and realized what she's really about. I realized it the week after Angie left. After weeks of calls and emails that she didn't respond to, I realized I had screwed up big time. That's for sure. For a smart man, you really were stupid. I know. You don't have to rub my nose in it, everyone's already made their points. When you see Angie, tell her I'm sorry I messed up, it wasn't her fault. And for what it's worth, I didn't sleep with Kelly that night. We fooled around a little, but I didn't fuck her. We fooled around a little, just a little? Judy mimicked me. Steve, you're picking on me. Damn it, you shouldn't have done anything with that slut. Angie was devastated. She trusted you until, well, you know when. Tell her I'm still very sorry, and if possible, I'd like to remain her friend. You sure don't know a damn thing about women, do you, Steve? She laid it all out for you, you broke her heart, and now you want to be her friend? Jesus Christ, will you ever learn? Maybe if you crawled on your knees and licked the soles of her boots she'd talk to you, but in your case words don't mean a damn thing. Judy went on a tirade. Hell, if you caught her doing what you did, what would your reaction be? Would you forgive her or would you kick her ass to the curb? She was right. So my life went on. Angie continued to get golden reviews from customers in the field. I hoped to see her from time to time at a department meeting or regular company event, but she never showed up. Even after all this time, I hoped to at least meet her somewhere in town, but I never waited. One Friday night, wallowing in self-pity, I pulled myself together. I wrote her a letter, or rather a message, in which I told her everything. I wasn't lying when I told you I loved you that last night we were together. I only wish I had listened to you and been more firm instead of being a weak son of a bitch. Maybe someday you'll find it in your heart to forgive me. I went on and on making excuses and lamenting my stupidity. I knew it was whiny and withering, but essentially I was hoping for forgiveness. And as I suspected, my hopes were dashed again when there was no response. A few weeks later, I was sitting with David at one of our local establishments when Judy snuck up behind me. Still sulking, or have you already found another slut to warm your bed at night? She jabbed at me, looking around as if expecting someone to show up. No, and I'm not even looking. Can I buy you a drink? She thought for a moment, then sat down. Just a glass of white wine, she replied. I slipped David a 10 and asked if he'd take one for her. He shrugged and headed for the bar. So, how's it going? Haven't seen you in a while. I tried to make casual conversation. You look good today. Are you still dating that what's his name? His name is Todd, and no, we're not dating anymore. Like you, he couldn't keep it in his pants. After saying that and visually realizing how much it hit me, she grabbed my arm. I'm sorry, that was inappropriate. I'm still a little out of it. It's okay, you didn't say anything that wasn't true. Besides, I've already moved on and hopefully grown up. David returned with her glass of wine and 2 more beers. You owe me another $5. For one glass of wine? I shot back. No, for the wine and another portion for the 2 of us. Did you really think I'd come all this way without buying something for us? He gave me his stupid grin. We spent the next couple minutes talking about nothing but nonsense until Judy defused the situation. You didn't ask about Angie? Don't you want to know how she's doing? Yes and no. A while back I finally sent her a letter and told her everything. I never got a reply, so I figured she still thought of me as a cheating bastard who didn't deserve a response. She's probably got a new boyfriend now. If you see her around, tell her I wish her the best, and I really mean it. Angie told me about it and was touched. She's still angry, but touched by your honesty. And no, she's not dating anyone regular right now. She's back home with her parents and has been very busy lately. When I see her next time, I'll give her your best wishes. But you'll have to excuse me, I can see my group waving at me. It was a pleasure chatting with you. I hope everything works out for you. With those words, she left. David watched her walk away. Nice piece of tail, he said admiringly. I took another look. Yes, she did have a nice ass. And then I realized that it was thoughts like that had gotten me in trouble last time. It had been almost 4 whole weeks, and on Friday night I saw Judy again. She was with 3 other girls and having a blast. I was quietly sipping my Corona, watching them, when I had the nerve to walk over and ask her to dance. She was surprised, and though she gave me a strange look, she said, "Why not?" It was great. I hadn't danced a hell of a lot lately, and to put it in English, I danced like a prim white boy, but I was still having fun. Until the guy she danced with earlier decided I was hitting on his girl. You've danced, now why don't you move on, the girl is with me tonight. He was tall and lanky, with medium brown skin. He came in with 2 of his similar-looking buddies. I was willing to bet that all 3 of them wanted to make a score this evening. Judy turned to him. Hey, asshole, this is my friend, and you don't get to tell me what I can do or who I can dance with. Things went downhill from there. Words were spoken on both sides. I tried my best to keep myself between Judy and him. When he called her a slut and pushed her, I stepped in to stop it, pushing him away from her. Damn, I was in pain. Every part of my body was screaming and asking, how the hell did I end up in this situation? 3 against 1 wasn't the best odds. Before the bouncers could get near us, the 3 of them just beat the shit out of me. Like I said, I'm not a fighter, and that night I proved it without a shadow of a doubt. Thankfully, nothing was broken, but not smashed. I was told that one of them punched me, and when I fell down, they started beating the shit out of me. My hands were swollen from trying to block the blows, and my legs had marks on them that shouldn't have been there. I don't know who took me to the emergency room or how I got there. All I know is that I sat there alone for the next 6 goddamn long hours without seeing a single friendly face. You do realize that a man can die in the time it took you to patch me up, I said sarcastically. Who do you want us to put in front of you? A heart attack patient or a guy with a gunshot wound? The emergency room doctor scolded me. That set things straight. You'll be in a lot of pain for about a week, and it will look a lot worse than it is. In 3 weeks you won't even be able to say you were in a bar fight." He smiled, and I couldn't. I found my keys in my jacket pocket and my car in the emergency room parking lot. As before, I didn't know who had the decency to drive my car to the hospital, but I silently thanked them. I wished I had stayed home last night instead of going to the club. I wanted to have a nice evening for a change and dance with a pretty girl. Now I was paying the price for trying to protect this cute girl from a jerk. Hell, I don't know if it even worked out, and where the hell did Judy disappear to? To top it all off, it was very frustrating to drive home with 2 balloons in my hands. Judy called me on my cell phone 2 hours later. "Steve, are you okay? How are you feeling?" After we left the police station, we went to the emergency room, but we couldn't find you. "I'm really sorry I got you into this. If it's any consolation, they're charging those 3 guys with assault and battery." I wasn't relieved, but I was glad for the news. When she caught her breath, I was finally able to speak up and asked, "Are you okay? They didn't hurt you, did they?" "Steve, they were too busy with you and then running away from the bouncers to worry about me." "That's good." "Judy, I'd love to talk some more, but I'm going to take a pain pill and get some sleep. It's been a rough night." 1 pill and a glass of water and I passed out for almost 8 hours. I spent Sunday looking at what was left of my face and told myself that next time I would stay out of the way. Just grab her ass and yank her out of there, that's what I had to do. I iced my hands and face for most of the day. By late afternoon, most of the swelling had gone down. At least I would have a war story for Monday. Hell, everyone knew it before I even walked through the office door. People had been stopping by my office all morning to see what I looked like. Some guys laughed and asked what the other guy looked like. On the positive side, most of the women sympathized with me. By 11 o'clock I was old news. When I got home, the first thing I did was pop another painkiller pill. I walked over to my desk and sank into my chair to check my email. I had 5 new emails. After deleting the first 2, I saw one that made my heart race. I clicked on it. "I just want to thank you for keeping my friend safe." When she told me what happened, I almost died. "I hope you're okay. Judy said she plans to come over to see you tomorrow after work. She feels responsible and will bring you a basket of get well wishes, but don't tell her I told you that. Maybe we can talk sometime. It's been a long time, and there's something I need to tell you." She signed Angie's letter. I read it 2 more times. The last 2 letters I never read. It took me over an hour to respond. I kept writing, deleting and rewriting my reply. I was rewriting for the 5th or 6th time when I finally hit the send button. I must have stared at the screen for an hour hoping for an immediate response, and I didn't get one. It took her 2 days, 3 hours, and 17 minutes, not that I was keeping score. "No date, just coffee, and I'll meet you at Starbucks on Saturday at 1:30. I think you still remember what I look like, so I won't tell you what I'll be wearing." It was our private little joke. Angie changed her outfit often, sometimes up to 3 times before we went anywhere. She looked good. Hell, she looked great. I got there on time, but she beat me to the table by the door. She was playing with her iPhone when I walked in. "Hi Angie, you look beautiful as always." "I'm sorry, I can't say the same about you." "Does your face hurt as much as it looks?" "Not really. If you take one of those little magic pills, you can walk through a brick wall and not feel a thing, but thanks for asking. Would you like a cup of coffee?" She nodded affirmatively. I walked over to the counter to place my order. Even sitting at the counter, I couldn't take my eyes off her. "Steve, your eyes are going to pop out of your head if you don't stop staring." "I haven't changed that much," Angie said as I walked back to our coffee table. "I didn't say it was, it's just been a long time. 11 months, 3 days, and 12 hours, but that's just an estimate," she said as she looked at her watch. I smiled weakly, because that was all my face could take at the moment. I decided that we would open up with casual conversation. It soon became clear that Angie had other ideas. Angie looked at me and said in a stern voice, "Just because I'm here now doesn't mean I've forgiven you." The only reason I'm here is because of Judy. I started to say something, but she interrupted me. You've already spoken your mind, now it's my turn, so just shut up and listen. Okay, but please relax. Don't tell me to relax. If it weren't for the fact that you can't keep your dick in your pants, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. I started apologizing again, which turned out to be another big mistake. Steve, one more word and I'm outta here. Now shut the hell up and listen to me for a change. You're just lucky I didn't let my brothers Andy and Carl permanently change your face and manhood after what you did. You hurt me. Hell, you hurt me, especially after I gave you everything I had to give. I opened my heart, my body, and my soul and you trashed them, not caring about what we had or me. Steve, you told me you loved me, and then you went and cheated on me with some whore. Do you have any idea what that did to me? I sat in stony silence and listened. I had never seen Angie so angry. I wanted to hurt you like you did me, but I had more important things to do with my life. So don't think putting on your puppy face and apologizing is going to make me feel better. I don't think she even took a breath the whole time she was tearing me apart. Finally she stopped, took a few sips of coffee, and sat up, staring at me. Well, don't you have anything to say? You asked me not to say anything. She smiled, then hummed. That's the first sensible thing you've said in a hell of a long time. At least you're listening for a change. We talked for almost another hour. She listened, and I repeated everything I had told her in my last letter. She sat quietly, not interrupting me until I began to feel a little sad. When she looked at her watch, she said it was time for her to leave. Can I see you again? Maybe we could have dinner some night? Steve, we are still in the talking stage and I will decide if and when we move forward. I still don't trust you, and mere words don't bother me anymore. Then how can I show you that I've changed if we don't see each other? I didn't want to sound too needy, but I wanted to be at least partially involved in her life. If you're interested, I think we can talk again. If you want to email me, I'll answer, but I'll have to check my schedule to see when we can meet. My life is more complicated than ever right now, and you're definitely not part of it yet. I did get a kiss on the cheek though, so it wasn't that bad. Over the next few weeks we emailed, talked on the phone, and started getting reacquainted. Believe it or not, almost half of the emails were initiated by her. And then things started to go wrong again. On Thursday, I was having dinner with an out-of-town client at one of the best restaurants in town. Just then I saw Angie walk in with some guy. He was tall and handsome, but most of all she looked stunning, dressed to the hilt. I couldn't take my eyes off her throughout dinner. As we were finishing dessert and drinking coffee, she finally spotted me. Our eyes met for a split second and that was the end of it. I paid our check and drove the client back to the hotel. I think I finally realized what her difficulty was. I didn't call or text her after that. I wanted to be with her, but I wasn't going to beg her to take me back, well, not anymore. Let her deal with her complications first. It only took 3 days. What? You're not going to text or call me anymore? I thought for a long time before answering. It wasn't the quick answer of a smartass or a weakling willing to do anything to get her back. Let me know when you've worked out your difficulties. Short, sweet, and to the point. I didn't have to wait long, she showed up on my doorstep the next evening. Who do you think you are? She blurted out. Last time I looked, we weren't a couple anymore, or did I miss something? You're right, we're no longer a couple and you can date anyone but me. She snapped back. I beg your pardon? Angie, I want you back. I think I've made that abundantly clear, but only with you, not with a pack of other guys to back you up. We have to be exclusive if we have any real chance of succeeding again. I didn't back down. And what exactly do you consider exclusive? I think we had a little disagreement last time. The last statement sounded sarcastic, and quite justifiably so. It's just you and me, no one else. How about business dinners and lunches? There's nothing you or I can do about it, we'll just have to trust each other. Steve, I haven't grown to trust you yet. I understand that and I know it's going to take time, but if we want to move forward, we need to be exclusive. On that point, I pushed as hard as I could. I'll get back to you with that question. I could feel her slipping away. Angie, I don't want to lose you again. Take as much time as you need, just let me know one way or another when you've sorted out your difficulties. She threw me a disapproving look, but kissed me lightly on the cheek before leaving. Okay, that went pretty well, I thought to myself. Today was Wednesday, and I figured I would hear back from her at least by Friday, but I didn't. Saturday I was going crazy sitting around waiting for her call. David said he was working, but agreed to meet me at our favorite club when he was done. I made sure I had my phone with me and even put it on vibrate so I wouldn't miss her call. I'd had 2 drinks when David finally showed up with a beer in his hand. I thought you'd be out on the dance floor having fun. Why the hell are you sitting at a table by yourself? David snapped at me. Waiting for you and Angie's call if you want to know, was my quick reply. Dude, you know she's here, don't you? I just looked at him. She's with that girl, Judy, you know, the one with the nice ass, and 2 others. Where? Show me. We walked to the far edge of the dance floor, and sure enough, there they were, dancing with each other. Bastard, was the first thing that came to my mind. See, I told you. Why don't you go over there and ask her to dance? You're not afraid of being turned down, are you? I guess I am. I waited for another song to start before I worked up the courage to make my move. I walked over to her when I saw that she was already dancing with some other guy. Shit, now what? I stood in the middle of the dance floor and felt really stupid. I turned around and walked back to where I started. Steve, as soon as the song is over, don't wait, get your ass over there and ask her. David chided me for being so slow-witted. I didn't wait for the song to end. I made my way to the edge of the dance floor and waited for my turn, which never came. Angie seemed to have a full dance card. Now another guy was monopolizing her time. I knew by then she must have noticed me standing there like a damn idiot waiting my turn. I know Judy did. After the 6th or 7th song I just said to hell with it and left. I told David I was out of there and headed for the front door. Steve, where the hell are you going? I turned, looked at Judy, and headed for the door again. When she said, Angie knows you're here, I stopped and turned around again. Then why the hell is she playing these fucking games? Judy stood with her mouth open. Tell her not to worry, I won't bother her anymore. I'm tired of paying for what I did. I think she shouted my name one more time, but by then I was out the door. Time to move on with my life. On Sunday, I ignored 2 emails in one. Call from Angie. Now she wants to talk? I deleted them all without even listening to what she had to say. I'd screwed up. I admitted it to Angie and was ready to make amends, but I wasn't about to make a fool of myself. I guess Angie is the kind of person who doesn't forgive and forget, so be it. Monday sucked, and Tuesday wasn't much better either. My boss gave me a hard time for not doing something I had only myself to blame for, but that didn't make it any easier. When I got home, my mood was disgusting and there was only 1 beer left in the fridge. I had just opened the lid when I heard someone standing at the front door. Looking through the peephole, I shrugged and opened the door. Judy, what do you need? You're not answering her emails and calls. So what? Angie's afraid she's gone too far this time. Judy, why are you here? Maybe the better question to ask is why the hell not Angie? She's afraid you won't talk to her. She didn't look too comfortable being here herself. Fuck this shit, hold on a second. I went back to the apartment, put my beer on the counter, grabbed my key ring and jacket. Time to move things along, we're going to Angie's. I waited to see what Judy would say. When she didn't say anything, I continued. I don't care if you call ahead and give her a heads up, but it's better to have her there when we get there. I got in the car and followed Judy to Angie's parents' house. The usual 10-minute drive took 15 minutes. I think Judy was speeding to give Angie extra time, but for what reason, I didn't know. She pulled into the driveway and I parked on the street, just in case her brothers were there and I had to make a hasty retreat. Judy stood by the car, and I went to the front door and rang the bell twice. Her mother opened the door. "Steve, this is a nice surprise, come on in," she greeted me, stepping aside. "It's been too long, come on in, make yourself at home." "Thank you, Mrs. Thomas." "How many times do I have to tell you, it's Carla," she hastily replied with a full-mouth smile. "Mike will be sorry to miss you, he's at the Moose Lodge right now doing who knows what," she said with a shake of her head. "I'll go get Angie for you." Everyone seemed to be stalling for time. Finally Angie came down the stairs. "Hey, Steve. Judy said you two were on your way here. Did I go too far last night?" I walked over to her, pulled her to me, and kissed her on the lips. It shocked the hell out of her. "Angie, no more games between us. I screwed up big time, I know it, and it won't happen again, I promise. I was a fool to let you go. I want you to come back to me, but only if you want to be with me. I wasn't lying that night when I told you I loved you. I meant it, and if you give me a second chance, I'll prove it to you all over again." I didn't give her a chance to speak until I'd said everything I thought. Still holding her in my arms, I let out a sigh of relief. "Are you done?" "Yeah, I think I said it all." I was still holding on to her. "Honey, is Steve staying for dinner?" asked Angie's mom, poking her head out from around the corner of the kitchen. Angie turned her head toward the kitchen. "Give me half an hour, and I'll get back to you on the matter." She turned to me again. "You can let me go anytime, and don't worry, I won't run away." "Not until you tell me why." "Why the games on Saturday night?" "Steve, I didn't even notice you standing there at first. I was just dancing with whoever asked me out. When I finally saw you, I don't know, maybe I wanted you to see that other guys found me attractive and wanted to be with me. Maybe I wanted to make you jealous, I don't know. But the next thing I knew, you were gone, and so was Judy. She told me later how angry you were. Believe it or not, I tried to catch you, but by the time I got to you, you were rushing out of the parking lot like a savage, and you know the rest. Can you forgive me for being a bitch? We both have too many things to forgive each other for. How about we go back to where we were a year ago and start over?" "I'd love to, but things are different now." "I know that, I've grown up, and I think you have too. It'll be like starting over." I was smiling now. "It's a little more complicated than that. I haven't been 100% honest with you, and I don't know exactly how to tell you about it. Angie, what happened in the past is over with. I'm not going to ask you what you've done in the last year, I've already told you in detail what I've done. It's all water over the dam. Well, it's not that simple in my case. Angie, if you have something to say, just say it. I'm not going to bite your head off." "Steve, don't be too sure." I threw my best stern look at her. "Look, I'm not letting you go until you tell me, I have all night to go." "Okay," she cleared her throat. "It might be easier to show you." She took my hand and led me up the stairs, down the hallway, and into her bedroom. His name is Dwayne, after my grandfather. A light brown boy slept in the crib. I don't understand? But the words how and when were really the first words that came to my mind. "You know it's yours?" she said, looking at me waiting for some sort of reaction. I thought it would be lighter, since my skin is more of a milk chocolate brown and not very dark, and you're so damn white. It turned out that in addition to my cheating, she was really annoyed that I was cheating on her with a beautiful white girl. She thought I was indirectly telling her that she wasn't good enough for me, or so she thought. How wrong she was. "Steve, you were never supposed to find out about this. I was going to raise him alone and give him the best life I could. I had to move back in with Mom and Dad because I still had to work. I took the advantageous position of being away from you. Hell, you would have known something was wrong as soon as you saw me. I've been following you for a while, and it was Judy who told me you broke up with that whore." "I don't understand, when?" I started to say. Then I remembered the last time we were close. I saw Angie sigh and shrug. Apparently my watch is really off. For the next 10 minutes, she listened to me pounce on her. By this point, I was furious. Angie, what kind of asshole do you take me for? Did you really think I would leave you? Did you really think I'd do the right thing? Steve, think about it, I just caught you cheating. I was hurt and mad as hell. I didn't even know about the baby for weeks after that night. By then we weren't a couple anymore and I had some tough decisions to make for the sake of the baby I was carrying and for my own sake. I'm not saying I made all the right decisions, just that I had to accept what I was going through. For the next 5 minutes, neither of us said anything. I watched my son sleep, giving my brain a chance to make sense of what was happening. Whose name is on his birth certificate? Only mine. Under father, I listed John Doe. I threw her an angry look. I'm sorry, but I wasn't going to strap a baby on you that you didn't want. You didn't give me a chance. I was wondering what might be next when her mother peeked into the bedroom. Kids, dinner is ready. I think you two could use a little break. She was right. We ate in silence, watching each other. Her mom asked what I had been up to, how my parents were doing, and if there was anything new. She paused for a second and smiled. Sorry about that. Tomorrow you and I are going to go to court and deal with this mistake on the birth certificate. I can't have my son go through life with unknown listed under father on his birth certificate. Her mom smiled, but Angie didn't. Steve, we have yet to solve the problems. Damn right, shouted I. Carla frowned. I mean, we're damn right, I repeated in a much quieter voice. Carla smiled and this time nodded. But we can't solve them separately from each other, and certainly not through emails and phone calls. Why don't we do it slowly and see what happens? Angie, it's already happened. You know what I mean. Just because you're Dwayne's father doesn't mean we're back together. I need time, things are happening too fast and I don't want to make a mistake again. I can't, it's not just me now. Look, I don't know how many times I need to tell you that I love you. I loved you before Dwayne, and I love you even more now, if that's even possible. I'm willing to give it another try if you're willing. I reached for her hand. Please? I looked at her, then at her mother, who was smiling again, showing her approval. We spent the next 6 months getting to know each other again. We talked, did many of the things we had done before, and created new memories. Was it easy? Hell no. More than once I'd thought we'd never make it. Now I had to adjust to being number 2 in her life. But we did everything as a family and took Dwayne with us wherever we went. My whole family was beyond happy for Angie and Dwayne, but things weren't going well with her 2 older brothers. They had seen their pregnant little sister get fat and walk alone for 9 difficult months, and they wanted me to pay for it. I'm glad they were there for her. I can't say that even now they have completely forgiven me, but we are working on it. What do you want to do today? Asked me Angie early Saturday morning, waking up next to me in bed. I don't care, I said, stroking her arm. But I have a few ideas I'd like to consider. Her kisses were hot and everything was going well when I heard a familiar cry. Your turn, she said, rolled over and grabbed her pillow. I slapped her ass. My son, our son, was changed, fed and, smiling, brought to our bed. I laid him down between us, pressed my lips to his bare belly and blew hard as his belly throbbed and made a loud sound. He smiled and giggled. I gently placed him on Mommy's belly. After all these years you still can't get a diaper on H. I'm right, she said as she turned and adjusted him. Just then she noticed a large pin in the front. Steve, you wouldn't have to pin them on if you did it right. Then she saw it sparkle. Angie looked at me and undid the huge pin. The ring came off and fell into her palm, but she still didn't say anything. She slipped it on her finger and held it out, just looking at it. Weren't you supposed to say something? Like, make me an honest woman or something? No, I think I'll just ask you to marry me and live happily ever after. She didn't yell, she didn't scream, we had done all that before. We kissed and this time I asked her a serious question and she said yes. No one was surprised. Our moms said it had been long planned. She wanted a lavish wedding and that's exactly what she got, white dress and all. Due to conflicting work schedules, we were able to plan a 4-day honeymoon, but we have essentially been on our honeymoon for the past 6 months." I think this was summed up best by her father. Looking at his wife, he announced to all of our wedding guests that the honeymoon ends only when you let it. Picking up his wine glass from the table, he said, "I would like to make a toast." He looked at his daughter and her new husband. "Angie and Steve, remember to live each day as if it were your last, and love each other as if it were your first time together." He paused, took a breath, raised his glass higher, and added, "And one more thing, never go to bed angry." Everyone shouted, "Here, here," and we gave each other a soft, tender kiss that sealed the bond between us. We became one again, forever and ever.